Stop for a second and listen closely, because if your heart feels heavy lately, if your plans keep falling, if nothing in your life feels the same as before, you are not imagining it. Something unseen is happening, something bigger than you can measure, and it is moving you away from what you thought you wanted. Before it could destroy you, you feel restless, tired. Even when everything around you looks fine, you feel lost, even though people tell you everything is okay. That unease, that quiet pull inside, it's not random, it's not weakness, it's a message from Allah that you are being redirected from a future that would have stolen more from you than you realize, to a path that your soul has been waiting for, quietly. And here's the truth most people never notice. Allah does not always guide by giving. Sometimes He guides by removing. Sometimes He protects by taking away the very thing you think you needed most. If you watch till the end of this video, you will finally see why the delays, the confusion, and the restlessness in your life were never against you. They were mercy in disguise. Stay with me, because what I'm about to reveal may change how you see every moment of your life forever. There are futures that look perfect when you describe them to someone else. When you talk about them, people nod in approval. They say things like, "That's a good life," or "You're lucky," or "Many people would love to be there." And you agree with them, at least with your mouth. But when you are alone, when the noise of the day fades, something inside you feels strangely quiet, not peaceful, just empty. You imagine waking up every day in that future, doing the same routines, meeting the same people, chasing the same goals. And instead of excitement, your chest feels tight. You don't panic. You don't cry immediately. You just feel tired, in a place sleep cannot reach. You tell yourself, maybe I'm ungrateful. You tell yourself, others have it worse. You tell yourself, this is normal. Everyone feels like this. So you push forward. But your heart does not follow. Your prayers slowly change. You still stand. You still raise your hands. You still say the words. But the warmth you once felt is quieter now. The closeness feels distant. You leave prayer without relief, wondering why your heart feels heavy even after speaking to Allah. At night, your body rests, but your thoughts don't. You replay conversations. You replay choices. You replay moments where something inside you whispered, "This is not it." Sometimes tears appear suddenly. Not dramatic tears, not loud sobbing, just silent tears that surprise even you. You wipe them quickly and ask yourself, why am I crying? Nothing bad happened, but something was happening. Your soul was reacting. The soul speaks in feelings long before the mind understands. It senses danger where logic sees opportunity. It feels loss where the world sees gain. Allah created your soul with awareness. It recognizes paths that will slowly starve it. And Allah listens to the soul. He saw a future where your life would look full, but your heart would slowly empty. A future where you would be busy all the time, yet disconnected. A future where you would depend more on control than on Him. A future where you would remember Allah, but without closeness. So Allah did not wait for you to reach the end of that road. He intervened early. He placed discomfort in places that once felt exciting. He allowed confusion where certainty used to live. He made the future you were running toward feel strangely heavy, not to punish you, but to wake you. You thought you were losing motivation. You thought you were becoming lazy. You thought something was wrong with your mindset, but nothing was wrong. Your soul was resisting a future that would have slowly erased its light. Allah loves gently. He does not always tear things away suddenly. Sometimes He makes them lose their sweetness. What once attracted you no longer satisfies. What once inspired you now drains you. What once felt like the answer now feels silent. This is how Allah saves without scaring you. If He wanted to abandon you, He would have let you continue happily until you were lost. If He wanted to punish you, He would have let you succeed and forget Him completely. Instead, He disturbed your comfort, because your soul matters more to Him than your plans. There was a version of you forming in that future. Not a bad person, not an evil person, just a distant one. Distant from softness, distant from humility, distant from that quiet closeness you once felt with Allah. Allah saw that version and said, "Not this one." So He touched your heart before your life collapsed. He tired you before you were destroyed. He made staying uncomfortable before leaving became impossible. This is mercy disguised as restlessness. You were not ungrateful. You were aware. You were not confused. You were being protected. You were not losing your way. You were being pulled back before you drifted too far. Allah does not allow a heart. He loves to disappear quietly. When He sees a future slowly stealing your soul, He does not ask you to understand immediately. He simply steps in. And that step, though painful, confusing, and lonely, is proof of how close you truly are to Him. When Allah breaks a plan you were sure about, the pain feels sharp because certainty was comforting. You had arranged your thoughts around it. You had imagined your life flowing in that direction. You had already told your heart, "This is where I'm going." So when it collapsed, you didn't just lose a plan. You lost a sense of control. At first, you tried to stay calm. You told yourself, "Maybe it's just a delay." You waited. You adjusted. You prayed for it to work again. But instead of fixing itself, everything became more tangled. That is the moment most people misunderstand Allah. They think, if Allah loved me, He would let this succeed. But love does not always look like approval. Sometimes love looks like interruption. Allah saw something you could not see from where you stood. He saw how that plan was shaping your inside. It was slowly teaching you to rely more on effort than on Him. It was training your heart to trust outcomes instead of tawakkul. It was filling your days so much that silence with Allah was disappearing. You didn't notice this change clearly. It happens quietly, gradually, so slowly that it feels normal. Allah noticed, and because He noticed, He stepped in. When the plan broke, it wasn't random. When the timing failed, it wasn't accidental. When doors closed one after another, it wasn't bad luck. It was protection. Light inside a person is fragile. Faith is strong, but it is also sensitive. If Allah leaves you too long in environments that harden the heart adapts. So Allah removes you before the adaptation becomes permanent. You call it collapse. Allah calls it preservation. You wanted the plan to work because it made sense. Allah wanted your heart to stay alive. There are plans that succeed but cost you sincerity. There are plans that work but slowly disconnect you from softness. There are plans that give results but take away humility. Allah does not trade your inner light for outer success. When He broke your plan, He wasn't saying, "You chose wrong." He was saying, "I am choosing better for you." That moment when you felt embarrassed, that moment when you felt behind others, that moment when you questioned your worth, Allah was shielding your light from a future that would have dimmed it. He knows how quickly the heart changes when life becomes loud. He knows how easily remembrance fades when the world rewards you. So He protected you quietly. He let things fall early. This is why it hurt, because the plan mattered to you. But the reason it mattered is also why Allah touched it. Allah does not disturb things that are harmless to your soul. He disturbs what is beginning to replace Him. You were starting to feel secure in the plan instead of secure in Allah. You were beginning to trust the structure more than the sustainer. So Allah removed the structure, not to leave you empty, but to return you to Him. At first, this removal feels cruel. you feel exposed. You feel uncertain. You feel like you lost your footing. But slowly, something else begins to happen. You start turning back to Allah more honestly, not to ask for success, but to ask for direction. Your dua changes tone. Your heart softens again. Your reliance shifts. This is the light Allah was protecting. If the plan had continued, you might not have noticed the slow drift. But because Allah loves you, He refused to let that drift continue. There is a deep wisdom in how Allah breaks plans. He does not always destroy them suddenly. Sometimes, He weakens them first. He removes their sweetness. E introduces delays. He creates small obstacles that grow over time. This gives your heart a chance to detach. But if the heart refuses to let go, Allah steps in more firmly. Because the heart is precious. You thought the plan was your future. Allah knew it was only a test. You thought the plan would give you peace. Allah knew it would slowly replace trust with tension. So He took it away. And in that loss, He preserved something far greater. Your sincerity, your humility, your closeness to Him. One day, when you look back, you will realize something quietly powerful. The plan you begged for would have succeeded, but you would not have. You would have achieved things, but lost presence. You would have moved forward, but away from Allah. That is why He broke it. Not because you were wrong, but because your light was more important than your timeline. And Allah always protects what He loves most. The pain you felt did not arrive suddenly. It crept in quietly. At first, it felt like discomfort, a small resistance in your heart. Whenever you tried to continue, you ignored it, thinking it was just stress, tiredness, or overthinking. You told yourself, "I'll adjust." You told yourself, "This phase will pass." You told yourself, "Every path has some pain." But this pain was different. It didn't sharpen you, it drained you. Every time you tried to move forward, your chest felt heavy. Every time you forced yourself to stay, your soul felt tighter. You weren't afraid to continue, you were exhausted by it. That is an important difference. Allah allows pain that grows you, but when pain begins to erase you, He does not remain silent. You thought you were losing something valuable, but what you were actually losing was harm that had not yet fully revealed itself. Allah hides danger behind familiarity. If He showed you everything clearly, fear would overwhelm you. So He lets your heart feel it first. That relationship you tried to save, that place you tried to belong, that version of life you tried to fit into, it didn't collapse because it was meaningless. It collapsed because it was shaping you in the wrong direction. You call it loss because it hurt. Allah calls it separation because it saved you. Separation is painful when attachment is deep, and your attachment was deep because you invested hope there. But Allah does not allow hope to remain attached to what will poison the soul. He allows disappointment early, so destruction does not arrive later. You felt like something was taken from you, but in reality, something harmful was pulled away from you. If that path had continued, the damage would not have been loud. It would have been quiet. You would have slowly accepted things that once troubled your conscience. You would have adjusted to behaviors that once felt wrong. You would have normalized distance from Allah without noticing. That is the most dangerous kind of harm. Not the harm that shocks you, but the harm that changes you slowly. Allah intervenes before that change becomes permanent, so He made it painful to stay. He placed discomfort in your heart so strong that you could no longer ignore it. He made the weight unbearable so that leaving became the only option. You thought the pain meant failure, but the pain was guidance. Your soul was screaming before it suffocated. Allah listens to the soul even when the mind argues. He knows that humans can survive loss, but they do not survive becoming someone their soul cannot recognize. That is why Allah does not always fix situations. Sometimes He removes you from them. You wanted relief inside the situation. Allah wanted safety outside of it. So he separated you. This separation feels like grief because attachment always mourns. But deep down, beneath the sadness, there is something else. A quiet sense of relief you don't want to admit yet. A small breath inside that says, "At least I don't have to pretend anymore." That is the beginning of healing. You may still question yourself. You may still replay moments and wonder, what if I tried harder? What if I stayed longer? What if I was more patient? But patience does not mean staying where your soul is being harmed. Allah never asks you to be patient with what pulls you away from Him. The pain you experienced was not random. It was not punishment. It was not a sign that you were weak. It was a sign that Allah was cutting you loose from something that was quietly cutting you. He removed you before bitterness settled in your heart, before resentment grew, before numbness replaced sincerity. That is mercy. Even now, the pain may still echo. Separation always leaves an ache. But over time, you will notice something changing. Your chest will feel lighter. Your prayers will breathe again. Your heart will soften in ways it had forgotten. One day, you will understand something clearly. If Allah had not separated you then, you would have lost more than you realize now. You would have lost your tenderness. You would have lost your awareness. You would have lost the version of you that still feels deeply. Allah did not let that happen. So yes, it hurt. Yes, it confused you. Yes, it broke something. But it also saved something. And what Allah saves is always more valuable than what He removes. There are futures where you would still remember Allah, but not the way you once did. You would still pray, still speak His name, still believe. Yet something subtle would change inside you. Your prayers would become routine instead of refuge. Your words would remain correct, but your heart would feel far away. You would do the actions, but the sweetness would slowly fade. Not because you stopped caring, but because life became too loud. That future was not evil. It was simply distracting. Allah saw a version of you who would rely more on systems than on Him, more on plans than on prayer, more on control than on trust. You would still say, Insha'Allah, but deep down, you would depend on yourself. This is how distance begins. Not with rebellion, not with sin, but with subtle replacement. Allah never becomes absent from the heart suddenly. He is slowly crowded out by deadlines, by pressure, by fear of falling behind, by the need to hold everything together. Allah saw that future clearly. He saw you waking up tired, moving fast, achieving things, but rarely sitting quietly with Him. He saw your heart learning to survive without leaning on Him fully. So He intervened, not because that future was sinful, but because it was dangerous for your closeness. Allah is gentle with His servants, but He is protective of intimacy. When something begins to stand between you and Him, even if it looks good, even if it looks necessary, even if others praise it, Allah removes it. This is why what was taken from you felt important. It mattered. It felt meaningful. It felt like progress. That is exactly why Allah touched it. Allah does not remove what is harmless to your heart. He removes what begins to compete with Him inside you. You didn't notice the shift happening. Most people don't. You were becoming busy instead of present, strong instead of surrendered, capable instead of reliant. And Allah loves you too much to let that become permanent. So, He pulled you away, not violently, not suddenly at first. He made your heart feel distant inside that future. He made the joy fade. He made what once excited you feel dry. This is how Allah calls you back without humiliating you. You thought you were losing passion. You thought you were tired. You thought something inside you was broken. But nothing was broken. You were being protected from spiritual distance. Allah does not just protect your body from harm. He protects your iman from erosion. And erosion happens quietly, one small compromise at a time. one missed softness at a time, one distracted prayer at a time. Allah stopped that process early. He removed you before the distance grew, because there are futures where you would survive, but your heart would starve. Allah does not accept that trade. It hurts to be removed from something that gave you identity. It hurts to let go of a future that made you feel secure, because when Allah removes those things, you are left face to face with Him, alone. No structure, no certainty, no backup plan, just trust. This is the hardest position for the ego, but the safest position for the soul. Allah wanted your heart back. He wanted you to remember what it feels like to depend on Him fully, to speak to Him honestly, to sit with Him without distraction. The future He removed you from would have kept you busy enough to forget how much you need Him. So He created space, silence, pause, stillness. These are not punishments. They are invitations. When Allah empties your hands, it is so you can raise them again properly, not asking for outcomes, not begging for control, but simply returning. The distance you felt inside that future was a warning. The removal was mercy. Allah was saying, without words, I want you closer than this. And Allah only pulls close those He intends to protect deeply. This stage of your life feels confusing in a very specific way. Not loud confusion, not chaos that everyone can see. It is a quiet confusion that lives inside you. You wake up and nothing feels clear. You try to plan, but your thoughts feel scattered. You want direction, but every option feels slightly wrong. You are not moving forward, but you are also not going back, and that scares you. You ask yourself questions you never used to ask. Why do I feel stuck? Why does nothing excite me anymore? Why does everything feel paused? You worry that you are wasting time. You worry that others are passing you. You worry that you missed your moment. But this pause is not an accident. This stillness did not come because you failed. It came because Allah slowed you down on purpose. If Allah wanted you to rush ahead, doors would be open, paths would be clear, energy would be strong. But instead, He placed you in a space where effort does not bring clarity. This is intentional. There are moments in life when Allah stops the outer movement so the inner alignment can begin. You are not being punished. You are being adjusted. This confusion feels uncomfortable because the mind hates uncertainty. The mind wants answers, timelines, and guarantees. But the soul grows in spaces where the mind cannot control everything. Right now, Allah is quieting your life so your heart can be heard again. You are learning how it feels to stand without leaning on outcomes. You are learning how it feels to wait without reassurance. You are learning how it feels to trust without seeing. This is not a small lesson. This is one of the deepest forms of spiritual training. If Allah gave you clarity too soon, you would follow it with the same heart that needed adjustment. So He paused the world around you. He removed noise. He removed momentum. He removed distractions, not because He forgot you, but because He is working on you where no one else can see. You may feel behind, but spiritually, something very important is happening. Your heart is being emptied of false urgency. Your attachment to timelines is being softened. Your need to figure everything out is being loosened. This process feels slow because it cannot be rushed. You are being taught patience without reward, trust without proof, reliance without backup. That is why this season feels heavy. But heavy does not mean wrong. A seed feels pressure before it grows. You might feel tempted to escape this pause, to distract yourself, to force a decision just to feel movement again. But forcing movement now would undo what Allah is building quietly, because this pause is not about your outer life. It is about your inner posture. Allah is teaching your heart how to stand correctly before He sends you forward. You are learning humility again, not the kind you speak about, the kind you feel. You are learning what it means to need Allah deeply, not just in words, but in reality. When everything was moving, you didn't notice how much you depended on structure, on certainty, on control. Now that those supports are gone, you are learning what remains. And what remains is Allah. This is why the pause feels sacred. It strips away performance. It removes identity built on progress. It leaves you with nothing but sincerity. That sincerity is what Allah is preparing you with, because the next chapter of your life cannot be entered with a rushed heart. It requires calm trust, soft reliance, a heart that knows how to wait without breaking. So, if you feel unsure, if you feel slow, if you feel suspended between past and future, do not panic. This is not stagnation. This is alignment. Allah is not delaying you. He is positioning you. And when this pause ends, and it will end, you will move with clarity instead of confusion, with peace instead of pressure, with trust instead of fear. For now, stay where you are. Breathe. Remain gentle with yourself, because this quiet season is not empty. It is sacred preparation. There will come a day when this pain no longer stings the way it does now. Not because you forgot it, but because you finally understood it. Right now, it feels unfair. You look at what almost became your life and think, if only this worked, if only I stayed, if only Allah let it happen. Your mind still visits that version of you sometimes. The one who made it, the one who stayed, the one who didn't lose what you lost. And every time you imagine that version, something inside you aches. But what you cannot see yet is this. Allah did not remove a future from you. He removed you from it, because that version of you was not going to survive with the same heart you have now. You would have learned how to smile without feeling. You would have learned how to succeed while being spiritually tired. You would have learned how to live without ever resting in Allah again. Not because you were weak, but because life there would not have slowed down enough for your soul to breathe. Allah saw you slowly becoming someone functional, but distant. And Allah does not let a heart He loves harden quietly. So He saved you from becoming that version. You cannot thank Allah for this yet, not fully, because gratitude often comes after understanding, and understanding comes after time. Right now, you only feel the emptiness where something used to be, the silence where a plan once lived, the loneliness where certainty once stood. But even now, there are signs. Your heart still feels. Your tears still come. Your conscience still speaks. That means something precious was preserved. If Allah had let you become that other version of yourself, you might not even feel this pain now. You might have been too distracted to notice what you lost inside. Pain is proof you were protected. There is a version of you that almost existed, one that would have been praised by people, but unnoticed by your own soul. Allah said no to that version, and He said yes to something deeper. This is why, even in sadness, you still feel a strange sense of closeness when you turn to Him. This is why your heart still softens in sujood. This is why you still crave sincerity, not applause. Allah guarded that. One day, your life will feel calm in a way it never did before. Not exciting in the loud sense, not impressive in the worldly sense, but calm. You will wake up without that heaviness in your chest. You will pray and feel present again. You will move through life without constantly forcing yourself to keep up. And in that moment, something will quietly rise in your heart. Gratitude, not the kind you say out loud, the kind that settles deep and stays. You will look back at this chapter, the confusion, the loss, the pause, the pain, and you will realize something that once felt impossible to accept. If Allah had given you what you wanted then, you would have lost what you needed most. You needed your heart intact. You needed your softness. You needed your awareness. You needed your closeness to Him. Allah chose that over your comfort. That is love. The world teaches you to measure success by speed, status, and security. Allah measures it by who you become in His presence. He did not rush your story because rushing would have broken you. He did not let you settle because settling would have numbed you. So He stripped things away. And when Allah strips, it is never to leave you empty forever. It is to rebuild you correctly. You may not recognize yourself right now. You may feel smaller, quieter, less certain, but you are more real. And Allah always builds from what is real. One day, when the future He chose for you finally opens, and you will step into it without fear of losing yourself, without fear of forgetting Him, without fear of becoming hollow again, because this time your heart will know where home is. And you will understand, with a calm that words cannot explain, Allah did not delay you. Allah did not deny you. Allah protected you from becoming someone your soul could not live with. And for that, your heart will finally rest.